Okay, purpose of this video is to show you what I do whenever I get a used, well, in fact, whenever I get a new car of any kind that I'm going to be running. I want to make sure it's running well. I like to use the NMRA specs as well. Kind of show you what goes on here. And what I normally do is we'll take it out of its container and just pop it out. Now normally what I do is I'll have a sheet of tissue paper or paper towel to work on, so let me grab one of those. And although I've got shop towels, I prefer white. That way if I drop anything or anything comes off, first of all the towel will help to catch it, and secondly, being white, it will help to show it so that I can see if I've dropped a wheel or something. Now I picked this one up because I noticed that it has dual sliding doors, and I don't have anything like that. So I was there. I'll make sure my little white thing is try and see what might be causing that to easily pull this retaining pin, kingpin out, and it comes out just fine. And then looking at this, I notice that wrong size. So let's see if I've got any smaller kingpins in my assortment of stuff. Let's see what I have in my... Okay, I got a bunch of kingpins here. I don't know if any of these are going to be any smaller or not, but we'll find out. And also tweezers. Here's the original truck. And we'll just drop one of these in. See what it's... Put it back. Now you can see in this case it, maybe you can't see. Anyway, it sticks up a lot. So, in order to fix that, I'm going to pop the top off. Set it aside. Well, I'll set it up there. Put this down here. And I'll take my pliers and carefully put pressure on to drive that home. Okay, so you can see now with both of them they got about the same amount of rock on them, and of course this now turns free. I'll return this. Well, now let's make sure both wheels are going to run fine on here. It's out of sequence from what I normally do, but that's okay. Okay, so you can see it runs nice and smooth. No issues with that. Okay, so normally what I do at this point, other than put the cap back in my knife, so I measure the length of the car. Normal ruler. The length of the car is 3 and 7/8 really. Between 3 3/4 and 3 7/8. I keep track of all of my cars, so this one I'll put in here as 3 7/8 inches, and all I'm doing here is writing down stats from what I've picked up on it. So I'll put down the weight, what the weight should be, and I'll search through and find something else the same size. That'll give me what the weight should be. Manufacturer, date purchased, amount purchased. I then take all this and I transfer it over to an Excel spreadsheet so that I have it all in Excel if I want to sort it or look at it or do anything else with it. But I also have this hard copy available if I want to reference, and I keep this down where my trains are all the time. Keep track of that. I've already got, when you look at this, 2 pages of these guys. And so I'll look for somewhere else where I've got a car that's 3 7/8 inches, and it should weigh 1.08 ounces. So right in 1.08, turn it on, and it shows 0. And if I put this guy on, and I put this guy on, it shows 1.00, and it's supposed to be 1.08. So I could put, I mean, the scale only goes to in 5, so I'd either measure it at 1.05 or 1.10, but that's so close that I'm not going to worry about it, and being a little bit light isn't an issue, so I'm going to leave it at that weight. Now we'll move the scale out of the way. Next up, I want to check couplers. I want to make sure that the height's okay and everything, so we'll put the body back on. Just gently put it in. Sometimes they snap, sometimes they don't. Move them around a little. Everything's still moving great. A little out of, you can just see the end of my re-railer. And so with the re-railer, it goes on. And now we'll zoom in on this. Yeah, it's a slow zoom, but c'est la vie. Okay, what I wanted you to be able to see is, first up is making sure that the whatever they're called, the bottom part of the coupler, is high enough. And so all I do with I can see that they're more than high enough. In fact, that one's a little too high. This one, on the other hand, boy, it's just barely in tolerance, and I'm worried about that, so I'm going to get my pliers out that I have that I can fix that with. Just go in here, and with this one I'm going to just bend this up ever so slightly. That should be more than enough. So now we come along and, yeah, I can see the difference in that. That's great. Now let's try that other one again just to see how high it really is. It's too high. Now, the way I fix the ones that are too high is I have a pair of skinny needle nose pliers, and I'll go in here and I'll press down on the top of this. Oh, super loose. So it probably came through further than I want, so we'll push this back up again. See if I did it so it's okay. Maybe a little too high still, I don't know. Yeah, still too high. So let's try this again. At some point this one may have to be replaced because it seems pretty loose. Now my re-railer isn't helping me out either. You can see how yeah, now it's on. Oh, now that's going along perfectly. Next step, make sure it'll couple okay. So we'll put my coupler on. You can see height-wise, looks fine, and it coupled okay. Let's try the other side. And doesn't want to couple. So let's just move this back and forth a few times. Yeah, okay, so it'll couple. I'm not interested in perfection, I'm interested in great. Now, I want to check the coupler deflection. I don't use magnetic uncouplers, but I want them to be able to work in case I at some point do decide to. So I'm off camera on the right here. You won't be able to see this. I have a little switch which will let me bring this back. And so now you can see it come along, and it's going to go over the uncoupler, and it definitely has positive action both directions. I'll move this again there, and you'll see it moves over and back. On this side, over and back. Now, as a further test, I'll throw on one of my test box cards that I had mentioned at the very start. These guys have all been set up already, and we'll just do a couple. Okay, so no problem coupling. And we get to the uncoupler, and no problem uncoupling either. One of the reasons I don't use uncouplers is, much as I like what they do, you can see if I'm coming along here, and a little bit jerky, I know, but it automatically uncouples, so I can't pick when and where to, unless I pull through, unless I push or pull through really fast. So I haven't figured that out on my layout yet. Anyway, we'll move that boxcar down there. So that guy's pretty much ready to go from my perspective. Next I'd put him on my layout and try it out. So what I'd now do is go ahead here and mark on the side of the jewel case that it's a Union Pacific. I'm going to put in yellow box, and it's a UP300318, which is 30318, exactly what I put in there. Put the cap on my pen. Marking here that the actual weight was 1.00. And then I'll leave this guy on here, and I can use him for testing the next 0.9 ounces. So I'll grab my handy postal scale, turn it on, it says 0, place the car on, and the car says 0.75, so it is 0.24 light. I'd like to have it at about 1.0. So I have some double sticky tape, nice thin stuff. It's from RC stuff. And then I have a whole bunch of weights. So you can see everything that I have weight-wise here. And I'll have these that are a ½ ounce, so those are going to be too big. And I'll have that's a ¼ ounce, that would be the right size, but I want one with a sticky, so I'm going to grab this one here. This is a more recent one that I picked up from Hobby Shop. If I drop that on, I see it goes to 1.00. That would be great. So that's the one I'm going to use. I won't need any more weight than that, so I'll put everything aside here and leave it there for the next one. Now the question starts to come up of where are you going to put this weight, and how are you going to put. Remember I said that one of the things I wanted to do was have the doors open potentially to show a load. So normally I'd take this and just throw it right in the middle, but that would look yucky. So rather than do that, I'm going to cut the weight in half and put it at either end. To cut the weight in half, I have, from many years ago, a pair of cutters. and can't remember what I originally bought them for. You can see they're rusted. They're, I don't know how many years old. And I'll just take those and put them midway into this weight so that I've got it equidistant. And I'll move this so you can see what I'm doing. These aren't super easy to cut. It'll take 2 hands, but I'll do a cut like that. So they're not exactly even, but they don't have to be. I'll go back and make sure that everything still weighs in fine. And if I look at that, I'm still sitting at 1 point. Great. So now we'll take those. We want to fix them inside the car. And so we'll move the scale off. We'll take the car body off. Just pull out with my fingers on either side is usually enough. And when I'm doing that, the bottom will catch on my fingers and I get to move it down. Now in this case it's being a little persnickety. You have to maybe do it a couple of times. And there we go. So now we have this out, and I want to put one on this side, one on this side, which hopefully you can see, and this. And all I'm going to do here is just take a bit of rubbing alcohol. That just says alcohol, so I don't know whether that's 90 or whether it's 70. It's likely 70%. Normally I mark if it's stronger, and don't worry about it if it's weaker. That goes on. It dries pretty much right away, so put the alcohol back. Take the other end of the Q-tip, the one that's dry. Just go along and do any cleanup. And you may be able to see that the Q-tip is kind of black, so it picked up some grunge from there. And as I want these weights to, and use it to pull the paper off the bottom. So pull that off. And to put it on the car, I'll hold the car with one hand. And that's right, I'm going to have that square piece to the middle. So just timed out so it doesn't burn out his little battery. And it goes to 0. Let's put that on. Let's put that on. And it reads 1.00, which is bingo, as you say. So those guys off. Turn the scale off. Put it to the side of my workbench. And then all I do is sorry, while I'm off, I'm just going to snug these up. I think they're as snug as they're going to be, but these kingpins, because I can't hurt anything by doing it here. Feels good. So I use the end of a pair of needle nose pliers. Press. And they're not going in any further. So that's good. So we'll put this in, just slide it in, click, click, drop, and it's fine. So now we're okay with that.
Oh,
now
they
the next
are
thing is to check
out of spec inside.
At least the leading one is. So I'm going to fix that
by popping this wheel out.
And I don't know how well this will show up, but if I try and fit a gauge in, it won't fit in the gauge. So all you need to do for that is grab the wheel and twist and pull a little. That's all you should have to do. One wheel should be fixed in and the other should turn. Well, you can see that happened. There, I pulled the wheel off, so we know that we can do that. So let's put this guy back on again. And check with the gauge. Oh yeah. Okay, I had pulled it out a fair amount, just hadn't realized it. Okay, let's check the gauge again. Okay. Don't know if you can see this, but there. Yes. Nicely engaged. So put it back in. There, it's engaged. So let's put this back on. Now, part of the reason that if it's out of gauge, it'll let the whole truck rotate a little bit, which will throw the coupler off. And I don't know if that was an issue, but yeah, I don't know. It now couples better than it did. And there's an uncouple. Okay, so open it up. Yeah, you can see the end's kind of worn. I used it a bit. And then go in and paint it. Now this doesn't color it a whole bunch, but it takes the shine off. Don't forget to paint the end. The difference between them. I think I kind of like the black. I'm going to do that on the next one.